Hi everyone, my name is Robyn DeGuzman. I'm a public health educator here at San Joaquin County Public Health Services. And today I'd like to share with you some Tai Chi, and it's from Dr. Paul Lam's Tai Chi for fall prevention and arthritis. So while you're sheltering in place, hopefully you'll be able to do some of these warm-up exercises. And a little disclaimer, if you need to sit down at any time, all of these exercises can be done with modification sitting down. And a few times during these warm-ups, I'm going to say bend your knees. So I want to demonstrate the safe way to bend your knees. It's just a slight knee bend, and you want to make sure that your knee doesn't go beyond your toes. So if you're able to bend your knees, please feel free. Otherwise, keep your joints generally pretty loose. You never want to lock your knees all the way. So the first thing we're going to do is walk around, and when you walk around, I really want you to feel that heel toe on the floor, and at the same time open and close your hands. And go ahead and go at your own pace. If you have a small space, that's perfectly okay. Just walk wherever you're able to. And always make sure you're breathing. Okay, so we're gonna do about 10 exercises, and the first thing we're gonna warm up is our neck, followed by our shoulders, then our spine, our hips, knees, and ankles. So the first warm up is a neck warm up, and you're going to put your feet around hip distance apart with a slight knee bend, and you're going to raise your hands up and then push your palms back and push out. And as you come back down, your eyes are going to follow your hands. And I like to inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, eyes follow hands. We're going to do a few more. And as we do this, try to think about cutting through maybe a block of tofu or a bowl of Jell-O, so you have a little bit of resistance in your movements. Okay, now we're going to warm up our shoulders. So you're going to pretend like your two hands are on a drum. You're going to pick up one hand and put it in front of you. Look over your middle finger, and you're going to rotate out about 70%. Then come back and switch hands. Over your middle finger and out about 70%. Center and switch. And I'm going to constantly remind you that you should not be holding your breath. And with this switch, my palms are just saying hi for a quick moment. And they pass each other. If you're comfortable, go a little further than 70%. And this will be the last one. Okay. Continuing to warm up our shoulders, we're going to do some small shoulder rolls to the front. So this is what it looks like from the side. And then when we rotate the other direction, we're going to do bigger shoulder rolls to the back. And always make sure you're breathing. And the reason why we focus more on doing bigger shoulder rolls to the back is if you're sitting a lot during the day, maybe you're a little hunched over and we want to use the shoulder rolls to the back to really counteract that hunched over posture. So really opening up that chest. Okay, continuing with our shoulder exercises, we're going to run our hands over a giant beach ball and then push down. I like to exhale here. Inhale. Exhale. And on the push down, I am doing a slight knee bend. So if you're able to, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can keep your knees nice and loose without moving them. Okay, we're going to do another spine exercise, and I'm going to use the metaphor of a ball for a lot of these. So we're going to hold a smaller ball, and the bottom hand is going to grow up the center, and pretend like you're blocking some sun rays, but you don't necessarily need to look at your hand. You can look straight forward, and my other hand is moving in the opposite direction. So now we're going to switch. The bottom hand grows up through the center and blocks this side while my other hand moves in the opposite direction. And continuing and breathing. And if you're comfortable doing a slight knee bend, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to remind you of something I talked about at the very beginning, which is that idea of resistance. And I'm also going to layer on moving from your center, which is a little bit below your belly button. So think about your arms coming from that center and growing out from below your belly button, instead of stopping at the shoulders. And this will be our last one. Okay, moving on to another spine exercise. We're going to hold another small ball, and this time we're going to rotate about 70% towards your top hand. So in my case, my left hand is on top, so I'm going to turn about 70% to my left. Then I'm going to rotate so my other hand is on top, and I will rotate back towards that hand. Rotate, turn your torso, and rotate, turn your torso. Okay, and I'm going to layer on the initiation of this movement. So I'm moving to my right, so I'm going to start the movement from my right hip. So I'm going to pretend like I'm doing hip, torso. Hip, torso. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, so it can be a little more subtle. I'm always breathing. And my knees are very slightly bent and not locked. And this last one, let's come back to the center. And that was the end of our spine exercises. So now we're going to move on to our hips. So the first thing we're going to do is pretend like we have a friend in front of us, and that friend is the same size as us. So we're going to put our hands on our friend's shoulders. I'm going to push my hands back, and as I do that, one heel is going to come forward. So it's an opposite movement. Then I'm going to bring everything back to the center, and as my hands come back forward, my foot is going to go to the back this time. So center, heel forward, hands back, center, hands forward, foot back, center. Continue at your own pace, always breathing. And if you are able to, challenge yourself a little bit by passing directly through the center without putting your foot down. Otherwise, continue on putting your foot in the center if you're unable to, which is perfectly fine. This will be our last one on this side. Okay, and continuing on to the other side. Our friend is in front of us. Our friend's the same size as us, and we're putting our hands on his or her shoulders. Our hands come back and our heel comes forward. I'm coming back to the center. Hands forward, foot back, and center. Always breathing. That standing leg is not locked. There's a slight knee bend. And if you are able to, bypass putting your foot down in the center. And one more time. And back to the center. Okay, continuing with our hip warm-up, we're now going to pretend we are in between two walls, so a pretty narrow hallway. We're going to push our hands against one wall. My bottom hand is underneath the elbow of my top arm. So I'm pushing against my left side, so my right foot is going to come out. Now everything is going to switch. So pushing against the opposite wall, and other foot comes out. Remember, your bottom hand is under the elbow of your top arm. And really think about having a wall here, because what I don't want you doing is coming way out here. If you think about a wall, we'll have a nice solid arm structure. Make sure you're breathing, and let's do one more on each side. and coming back to the center. So now we're going to move on to some knee exercises. So to start, have your toes just slightly turned out and bring your hands to loose fists. And these fists are going in front of our hips. You're going to tap one toe out and the other hand is going to punch forward. Now everything switches. So as one hand punches forward, the other hand is still on our hip. And think about that resistance that I talked about earlier. So if you're in a block of tofu or jello, it has a little bit of give to it. You're not able to cut through it. There's a little bit of resistance. Make sure you're breathing. And for this, I really want you to make sure that you are doing the opposite arm and opposite leg, because a lot of times in class, I'll see that people, they stop concentrating and they end up doing this, which I think is more natural for some of us. So really make sure you're doing the opposite arm and leg. And if you are ready for a little bit of a challenge, go ahead and lift up that front foot. So it's a little bit more difficult of a balance exercise. Otherwise, you can go ahead and keep your foot down. And this exercise brings us to our next exercise, in which we put our weight on the front foot and the opposite arm punches. So a small step forward, heel toe, weight on it, opposite arm. And make sure, as I mentioned earlier, when you're doing this, your knee is not coming past your toe. And I'm breathing. I like to exhale on my punch forward. And let's do one more on each side. Okay, and the last thing we're going to warm up is our ankles. So again, we have loose fists, and we're going to shift our weight to one side, and the other foot is going to just heel toe onto the floor, waking up your nerve endings. And the other side. Now we're going to do inside, outside with our ankles. You don't necessarily need to look down at your foot. You can look straight forward. This is also known as corn bunion. So we put our bunion on the floor and then a corn. And then make sure you do the other side. And we're just going to close out by inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, gathering up the energy, we're going to squeeze everything and relax and squeeze. If you want, go on your toes. Relax, squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. And we're just going to march it out at your own pace. So again, my name is Robyn DeGuzman. I'm a public health educator here at San Joaquin County Public Health Services, and this has been Dr. Paul Lamb's Tai Chi for Fall Prevention and Arthritis. Thank you very much and stay safe.